All right, episode 3 of Business by the Bar. I'm Armando with Security Owners Group. We are in the bar talking business, and I've got Ryan Geltz with Pro Security and Automation here in my basement, and we're going to talk about a few different things. So before we get into that, though, we need some whiskey. So we're going to start with Catcher's Rye. That's out of Detroit, where I've got my second office, the first office I opened outside Indianapolis. And this was brought to me by our GM up there, and it is probably my favorite rye that I've ever had. So I'm going to pour a little bit of this. If I get him really drunk, he'll open up and tell me all the secrets. So we'll do that. So Ryan and I have known each other for a couple of years now, and we're technically competitors because we both have security in the name of our companies, and we're both in the same city, but that is about as far as it goes. We have different clientele, different markets, different approaches to the security and the solutions that we use. We focus at Hoosier, we focus on commercial and video analytics, access control, bigger stuff. Ryan's company, correct me if I'm wrong here, the majority of what you do is custom homes and automation through builders and kind of really high-end custom home stuff, right? The stuff that everybody else gets really frustrated when they put in a Z-Wave device and then they're like, this crap doesn't work. You make it work.
Yep.
Right? Okay, cool. So cheers. Did I pour you too much?
Oh, no.
All right. All right, I wanted to talk about a couple different things, but really it's about the importance of continuing education, of continuing to grow yourself as a human being and a professional when you are the owner, right? Setting the standard for doing better today than yesterday and doing better tomorrow than we did today. So I know Ryan just did or I guess last year? When was it?
Yeah, ended at the end of last year.
Last year. So as if dealing with COVID and running a business wasn't enough, this guy went out and got an MBA. So through Interrise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What was probably let me step back. What was the most impactful thing that you got out of that?
Probably the most impactful was being able to do a deep dive into like my own business. So a normal MBA, you analyze a lot of other businesses, Fortune 500, like huge companies, huge P&Ls and stuff like that. Everything in the program was geared directly to our company. Then there were 20 other central Indiana companies involved, all different ranges of manufacturing, medical, whatever. But we all came together. We were in different groups and we would talk about these things with each other. Tax breaks, P&L, like balance sheets. And so they brought in all these experts, bankers, accountants, lawyers, so you could just free will ask any of these questions.
Nice.
So for me, being able to do that with like my own company made so much more sense than just learning about all the other companies out there and kind of how they've done it.
Cool. So I did the same thing, right? Except I didn't have the wherewithal to complete it in the middle of COVID. So I think I got about 2/3 of the way through, and then I was like, I can't do this. I got to go run my business because the world's falling apart right now.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting to go through all of the stuff that I've learned informally through a formal approach. Do you think that's better? Was that better for you to do it formally, or would you have got the same if you just followed all the guidance online and you can find all those docs all over the internet?
Oh yeah,
right.
It's two things. One, the accountability. So just someone saying we're showing up in 2 weeks and going to talk about this. Do your homework. You don't want to show up and look like an idiot. For a lot of people, for me myself, just having that as an incentive really helps me follow through. The other thing was the guest experts. If there was something that you didn't know about, you had that person to go talk to about. And then we had all the follow-up contact information and stuff like that so that we could reach out. They brought in people from the SBA on how to get SBA loans and, some of those things that you might not know even where to start, looking for. They had, 5 people lined up that you could talk to.
Nice. So did they, when I did the Interrise thing, one of the things they gave us was the metrics for the industry.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is amazing. I'm going to go and devour this thing. And I actually put it out
Yeah.
with the group. Did they give you the same docs? Like,
Yeah, you're like.
did you get next year's, like the next year's?
I have whatever last year's was.
All right, so you're gonna send me an email with that.
Yeah, I have all that
Because
somewhere.
I think I only have like 2018.
Okay, yeah,
And
probably.
I'm really curious because supposedly, according to this, nationally, from 18 when I had the docs,
Mm-hmm.
the net performance in our industry is about 7.
Okay.
And from 5 to 8, right, depending on how you do the math on the sheet, which I thought was like, oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's like, so for every $100,000 we sell, the business gets to make $7,000.
Right.
That's hell. I'll go do Bitcoin or go whatever. There's 1,000 other things you can do to make 7% and not have all that crazy risk.
Mm-hmm.
So, what else do you do for continuing to make sure that every day or every month, quarter, year, you are in a better position as the owner of the business, right? Because first of all, was the MBA, the Enterprise MBA, was that the first thing that you did?
So besides,
you don't strike me as a guy who just like all of a sudden figured out he needs to improve himself. Like, I think you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I've had 2 bachelors. I've continued doing just online courses and stuff like that here and there. YouTube, mastermind courses, stuff you do.
Yeah.
So that was all just like building up to the fact that I realized I'm really smart about the technology of everything, but I don't know everything about a business or how to run it exactly. And I think a lot of people get into that, especially in like trades and like service industry. You might be the best carpenter in the world, but you don't know how to run a company and manage the bills.
Yeah.
So
did you come in from the sales side or from the tech side?
So I originally started out selling security door to door.
Same as me.
Yeah.
I bet you I sold less than you did.
Summer trip out to Tucson, Arizona, for 3 months, 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, knocking doors. Terrible.
Okay. What'd you do after that?
Went back to school and said I was never going to do it again.
Dude, we have like the same story. So when I first started, I was doing door-to-door alarm sales for, a company I ended up buying later. But the entire summer, I got 3 people fired and I didn't sell a single alarm system. Right? Everybody was out there making all these crazy promises like, the alarm company, well, I guess they're gone. So it's Ameritech, like back in the day. We'll cover you if you get your stuff stolen, and then they go in and have them sign a $500 limitation, right?
Oh, wow.
So 3 people fired.
Yeah.
I went back to school. Came back the next summer. He talked me into doing it again. Second year, didn't sell a single alarm system again. I don't know why this guy called me to come work for him and do video surveillance and alarm sales by appointment, because I was the worst salesperson ever. But regardless, all right. So you came in from the sales side.
Yeah.
All right. But you understand the tech, right? Because a lot of technicians will tell you the sales guys don't know what the hell they're doing.
So I first came in as that. And then years later, a friend of mine who actually had started the company that we were doing the door knocking and stuff from, he got into that side of it, brought kind of a door knocking team to Indiana. And I was living here and decided I was going to go back to school for engineering. Needed a side job. So I said, hey, let me just be a tech for you. I'm studying engineering.
So you did both?
Yeah, so I originally did sales, and then I went into the other side of it because I just hated talking to people, really. Not so much talking to people, knocking on doors and trying to talk to people that way. So there's a big difference, soft and hard closes and everything else, cold calling.
And I always say business would be easy if it wasn't for customers, vendors, and employees.
Yeah.
Right? It'd be easy.
Right.
So you're one of the few that has experience in both sides.
Yeah.
Right. Usually what I find is people come in as a technician. They think they can do a better job. They're tired of being treated a certain way. They don't realize that sometimes they're being treated that way because the business isn't really successful and can't support them in other ways. So they're falling into the same trap that they don't like, right? They're not getting the education, and I don't mean going out and getting an MBA. I mean learning what you need to learn. Right, without having your teeth kicked in. That's how I learned. I got my teeth kicked in. I almost lost everything, and then lo and behold, I better figure this shit out and fix the company, or I'm out like everything.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to go through that. You can read. You can join mastermind groups. You can do. We were talking before we started recording about like how some of these things are $20,000, $25,000 a year, but you don't have to do that. You can find small groups, even like in Security Owners Group. People form small groups all the time. I've got a couple of groups with other owners through Messenger, and we just bounce stuff off each other, right? So finding that support group and just having that hunger to keep improving. What I was getting at before, I said, the technicians start their business for one reason. Salespeople start their business for another reason. And what you don't find most of the time is technicians wanting to educate and grow in the sales side. You'll get a little bit of that. Same with sales guys. You'll see them wanting to learn the tech a little bit, but they never want to go too deep. What you absolutely never find is either of those two people say, I'm gonna go figure out how a business works before I put everything I have into it.
Yeah.
So it's really frustrating for me as somebody who's like trying to push that side and say, look, you guys, it's your livelihood. You've got to learn how to run the business, and it's boring. Nobody graduates from high school and says, "Oh, I'm going to be a controller," or "I'm going to be a." Some people say they're going to be CPAs, but
yeah,
that takes a special, right? But nobody says, "Oh, I'm going to go be a bean counter." Like that's not the fun part of the business until you write yourself a distribution check. That part's really fun. So let's talk the stuff you can self-direct, right? Books. Obviously, I'm always harping on about Profit First. That thing changed my business entirely. I know you use it too.
So I read that first, and I read the contractors version.
Okay.
Just because I looked at both of them and it seemed like it worked better with kind of the model that I was trying to build. And then from there, I think I read 4 or 5 other Mike's books.
Yeah.
Clockwork, Pumpkin Plan, Fix This Next, just on a spiel of all of them. And honestly, that's what really started driving me to be like, I need to learn, how to run a business and break it down into numbers and data and being able to actually evaluate it in more than just we made money this year type of way. And so back then I had a accountant that would reconcile every so often, and you get to the end of the year and you think you're going to make
whenever
money,
they get around to it,
and then they get around to it and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? And so I'm like, all right, I need to know a lot more about what's going on myself,
right?
So that I can foresee that and just know when to buy another vehicle, when to hire another person, how to expand, and any of those things.
The answer to all those questions is December 31st. After you've made all your money.
After you've made your money.
And just know that you've run it well enough that you have to go take a Section 179 on something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People probably think I'm a shill for Mike because I'm constantly talking about Profit First and all the other books, but it's just because he's a friend and I've gotten to know him, and I know he's genuine when he wants to his mission is eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. That's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of piggybacking a little bit on that concept and that idea. I think it's noble, but I don't mean to harp on Profit First or any of his other books. There's a ton of other stuff out there that's incredibly valuable. So one of the things that we're on right now is obviously growing past compensation being the only thing that matters to employees, right? So we're in the middle of doing some stuff with a book called The Dream Manager. Okay. That is a huge benefit in that it brings you and your employees closer together in the things that make them tick as a human being, right? So you can grow them, and then in turn, the loyalty that's created and the synergy, pardon the buzzword, right? But the synergy that's created when everybody's working in the same direction for something that benefits them, the business is the ultimate benefactor. It grows so much faster. So one of the other books that early on to me made a big difference was Good to Great, which is actually very similar to Pumpkin Plan. Here I go back to Mike, in that figure out what your niche is, right, and then ignore everything else, because it doesn't matter. It's just a distraction. So, guys who do, for example, we'll do it the other way. Guys who do commercial access control and video surveillance and video analytics. When somebody calls me and says, hey, I'd like you to put in, a home automation system for me. I don't care if it's a $20,000, $40,000 system. I'm sending them to you because it's going to be another distraction, right? When somebody comes into us here in Indy and says, you guys want to do, structured cabling, Can we do it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We've got the resources, the tools, the people, the wire, but it's not what we focus on. It's not what we're good at.
Yeah.
And I bring zero additional value. So there's been a couple times where we passed on a $10,000 or $20,000 wiring opportunity just because it's not what we do.
Sure.
Right. So good to great is the second one that I would say, like, if you're going to start down this path of just improving your mindset and thinking about things, good to great is a huge one. And then going, what is it? What's the book that everybody uses as the intro to entrepreneurship, right? Where he talks about, it's a novel, or it's novelized, but he talks about not working in the business, working on the business.
Yeah. I don't remember what that's called.
Okay, somebody who's watching this is going to know, so leave it in the comments, okay? Because it's escaping me right now. I've probably just not had enough whiskey to remember what it's called, so I'm going to do that.
I'll try that too.
All right, so the point is, in order to be successful, you've got to keep getting better, and you're the only one who can do that, right? So you either need to seek out something like an Enterprise group where you can earn, I think in my case it was called the Streetwise MBA.
That's what it was, yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Which they discontinued it.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, it's the last year they're going to do it. So
great. So find something
Find
like
something
that
else.
that will help you continue to expand your mind into things that you don't understand naturally, right? As a technician, the business stuff is going to be totally foreign to you. For me, as somebody who's run a business for a long time, but only been on a ladder probably 15 times to install stuff in my life, what you guys do is totally foreign to me. So I trust that what you're doing, is the right way. Or I hire people who are way smarter than me to do that. Unless you can hire people to run the business and you have that kind of cash flow, you got to figure it out, right? So constant reading, join mastermind groups. Don't go for the $25,000 ones, right? Go for the small ones that will give you short bursts of improvement and you can help. You make friends within the industry who have the same struggles or who have solved those problems before. Don't pigeonhole yourself into the same 5 or 6 people that you know because you're all at the same stage, right? If you know 5 people who own security companies and they're all sub $1 million, that's not going to help you because none of them have done the stuff that it takes to get to 3 million or 5 million or 10 million, right? So throw somebody in there who's a little bit farther. And at the same time, take someone who just started out and isn't even at $500,000 or 200,000. They literally just started, and bring them along for the ride with you. The reason I do the masterminds, a little known fact, everybody thinks I'm doing it for the money. It doesn't. I lose money on that stuff. I gain as much out of it as everybody else. So like I'm there as a student as well. Like I want to know what everybody else is doing so I can figure out what the best practices are and say, hey, this is how you run a business. It's not the shit that you think about. It's how the whole business works. So the point is continue to educate yourself. Look Ryan up, Pro Security and Automation out of Fishers, Indiana. He is a smart dude. He knows what he's doing. So if you're a client of Ryan's, consider yourself lucky because the dude's he's pretty busy. And 2, if you're somebody I refer to Ryan, know that I don't do that lightly. So in all, hey, subscribe, join the Security Owners Group free group. It's a huge resource with, I think we're at about 400 vetted security company owners in there, okay? If you're not in that group, do that. It's a massive resource. It doesn't cost a penny. And all you got to do is endure me trying to sell you on a mastermind group or on a financial service or something that's going to make you a better business owner anyways. It's totally worth it. And I only do it every other day or something. So we'll see you guys later. We're going to enjoy the rest of the whiskey.